inclusive education, and I'm going to be discussing a number of issues concerning inclusive education. Thank you very much. So, first of all, I will start by defining inclusive education. Inclusive education refers to the providing of education to all students, regardless of their abilities or backgrounds, with equal opportunities to learn together in the same classroom. It promotes diversity, respect, collaboration among students and teachers. Inclusive education can benefit learners, including children with disabilities, orphans, street children, children got out of armed conflicts, or sometimes they always refer to it as CAFAG, among others. So, in my presentation, I will not talk about how inclusive education benefits the children who have been got out of armed conflict, or the orphans, or the street children. But what I would wish to discuss with you will encompass around children who are living with disabilities. So many people ask themselves, what is disability? Or how could we describe somebody who is living with disability? So here I give some clear definition of person with disabilities, saying people with disabilities are those whose bodies are impaired or loss of function and limbs of the body, mind, cognition, or intelligence. So impaired means they have a difficulty in some part of their body, be it the limbs, be it the mind, and any other, including the nerves. So the meaning of disability. Here we are saying physical capacity has been limited or having problems with daily mobility or performing activities in the family, community, and the society due to deformation, impairments, loss of one or many limbs of the body, mind, and brain, comparing to those who have normal, full function or capacity of mobility in the society. So disability means there is a loss in function of some part of the body, be it limbs include the hands and the legs, be it the brain, which is cognitive, and other sensory organs, as I can say. So let's move on to look at the causes of disability. Here, okay, we have a lot of causes, a lot that can cause disability, but I decided to summarize the causes of disability into 3. So in these 3, we shall have a general picture of what are some of the causes of disability. So I start with the first one. I'm getting back. No. Yes, Bida? Okay. Causes of disability. Sorry for the problem, the computer problem, but yes, so I was trying to talk about the first cause of disability. So the first one is congenital, or we can also call it genetic. So with congenital or genetics, this involves abnormalities or mutations in an individual's genes. By abnormalities in an individual's genes, we mean that the person has been developed in the womb of the mother when he has already some abnormalities. And so when the person is given birth to, he develops those abnormalities, and later on it brings about disability. Then the other cause is prenatal exposure to toxins and infections. Exposure to alcohol, tobacco, or environmental pollutants, and certain infections like rubella, which is also called as German measles. So these are mostly the women when they engage too much in drinking alcohol, smoking tobacco, and sometimes due to the industrial fumes in urban centers that come out of the industries, it could also affect the unborn child, hence leading into a disability. We also see that some infections like German measles, if maybe one woman is having German measles when she's pregnant, it might at the end affect the fetus and hence leading to the disability of such a person. The other is the accident or the injury. Sometimes we may not be born with disabilities, maybe, but as we grow up, we may experience some conditions. We might experience some things on the way, like accidents and injuries. So these accidents and injuries, they lead to severe blows to the head, and it can result to traumatic brain injuries, injuries to the spinal cord, and can cause paralysis. Amputations also, due to accidents, can reduce mobility. Amputations, here I mean, when you get an accident, at a certain point, they may decide to cut off either the leg which had have a problem, or the hand which has had a problem, which we call amputation. So by that, it can also reduce your mobility, which is also part of disability. So from here, we can look at the types of disabilities. Excuse me, am I too fast? Hello? Types of disabilities?
It's okay.
Yes.
It's okay. Kindly proceed.
Okay. Types of disabilities. So also here, I decided to categorize them into three. Yeah, they may be, but in order, because of this presentation, I decided to summarize them into three. The first disability we will talk about is physical disabilities. So with physical disabilities, here we are looking at limitations in mobility or physical functioning, such as paralysis, amputations, or muscular dystrophy and paraplegia. So physical disabilities, this one is basically on our body, maybe like on the hands and the legs. So they may be paralysis, or they may be amputation. So this is what generally we talk about physical disabilities. When you see some person who is using either a wheelchair, a tricycle for movement, due to either maybe part of his limbs has been paralyzed or has been amputated, then that one is a physical disability. Number two, we have sensory disabilities. Impairments affecting the sight, hearing, or both, like blindness, darkness, or hearing. Yes, sensory disabilities comes from the word, the sense, the seven, is it either, I don't know, but there are many senses, but generally as I went on learning, I learned of 7 senses. Here also in the sensory, now in the sensory functioning, there are also some impairments. So they are talking about sight. That means somebody can be impaired, somebody can be disabled by sight, for example, blindness or low vision, or can be disabled by hearing. He cannot be able to hear what you say. Number 3, we have cognitive disabilities. Challenges related to intellectual functioning, such as learning disabilities, Down syndrome, or intellectual development disorder, and hydrocephalus. Later on in this session, I will be showing to you a video on one of these disabilities. So with cognitive disabilities, here it is the impairment of the mind or the dysfunctioning of the mind. So there are some people or there are some children who are experiencing disability on their mind. And I'm giving examples such as Down syndrome, intellectual development disorders, including autism, and also hydrocephalus. Hydrocephalus, the way I could describe it, is like one who has a head filled with water and is swollen. If in case you have ever encountered somebody with a swollen head, then that is whom they describe as hydrocephalus. So let's go on to look at the barriers of children with disabilities. So these children with disabilities, we see that though they have their disabilities, they can be able to do things like any other ordinary person. And that's why we include them into the same classroom, into the same school environment as the normal child. But they do have barriers that affect them. Barriers are like limitations which affect them, which block them from accessing some of these services. The first one I will talk about is physical barriers. By physical barriers, this concerns the limit of environmental school facilities to support children with disabilities or impairments. So you find that when there are some environmental facilities which cannot enable children having paraplegia, let me just in general, let me say children having physical disabilities. Like for example, you find that there is a classroom, there are ladders to climb, so it becomes a physical barrier. So I think that is one of the good physical barrier I could go to, because there are some areas as a disabled person you would like to access, but because they don't have what can support you move in that area, then it becomes a barrier. Number 2 is attitudinal barrier. These are physical attitudes which the people show towards children with impairments or disabilities. Attitudinal means the way people perceive the children or persons who live with disabilities. You will be like, these are the disadvantaged children, they cannot access the similar services like the rest, how they are assessing it. You start giving them names like Abu Kereng, Abu Ras, okay, and others. Just I was giving that as an example, but I don't mean you should start giving them such names because that is an attitudinal barrier. By calling those children with disabilities such names, they will tend to lose confidence and fear to get access such kind of education. Then we thereafter also look at financial barrier. These are the limit in finances to support the children with disabilities in school. Yeah, sometimes these children with disabilities would like to access education just like any other person. But due to finances, limited finances, it hinders them from accessing that service or accessing that education. And so hence it becomes a barrier to the children with the disabilities. So from here, let's try to look. Yes, I see at the end, we are going to make it interactive. But let me first give my presentation, then I will give the floor to you also so that we can discuss more. So let's look at how teaching children who have special needs or children with disabilities. So as I had shared earlier on, there are different types of disabilities. And so with these different types of disabilities, we shall engage children with these different types of disabilities differently during our teaching, during our training as teachers, as educators, as instructors. So the first example I would like to talk about here is teaching children with hearing impairment or hearing disabilities. So hearing impairment, first of all, these are children who cannot be able to hear what you say. Or if they're able to hear, they will be hearing at a very low tune. So what can we do as teachers to help such children when they are in our classrooms? So the first example I give you here is use very simple words and sentences together with gestures and illustrative pictures to help enhance their understanding about what you are talking about. Children with hearing problem could learn from seeing more than listening, even though both are being applied. So if you identify that one of your learners is having hearing impairment, cannot be able to listen to you as you teach in class, then you need to use simple words and simple sentences and also illustrative pictures, because when they see, they can be able to understand what you are telling them about. Be it you are talking about football, then you have to bring the ball and show it to them. Or if not, if you don't have the ball, you can show them a picture of the ball. If you are talking about a mango, you can show them the mango, or you can show them, if you don't have the mango, you can show them the picture of the mango. So you should use more of images and also encompass in the talking. Yes, here I repeated it, use pictures so that they can see and learn, yes. Pair up the students who have hearing problem to sit with the ones who has not, so that he could help to find the correct pages review instruction, and so on. Such students who have hearing impairment should be added together with their colleagues who are okay, so that they can guide them while they are doing their work. Maybe they are revising, and maybe they are trying to understand some of the concepts. Promotes the student with hearing problem to watch and listen to other students answering your questions. Yes, you should always encourage these children who are having an hearing impairment to always sit close and watch the others as they answer or present something to their class. Then here we have use sign language to those who are deaf. Sometimes as teachers or educators, we may not have knowledge of basic sign language, but if possible, you can engage in a sign language expert to always be there. But due to the expenses, as you understand with South Sudan, so sometimes you have to devise means and try to learn those basic sign languages, so that when you encounter a learner who is deaf, you can be able, as you explain, you can also be able to explain to him or her in sign language. So here we also look at the second one, which is teaching children with visual impairment. So with visual impairment, this one is all about sight. Seeing, visual means to see. So there are some children who have a problem with sight, who have a problem with seeing. And so they are the ones who have visual impairment or visual disabilities. So one good way how you could engage such learners with visual impairment is write big letters on the board or LCD projector. Yes, you need, because there are some with low vision, others may not be totally blind, but they have low vision. So you need always use big letters. Yeah, I think even me, the way how I designed my presentation, even if you're having low vision, you could be able at least to get what I'm presenting to you. So you use big letters and yes, to present. So also read out loud what is written on the board for students. Since they cannot be able to read clearly, you need to read out aloud for them so that they can hear and understand what you have written as a teacher. Prepare the materials which could help students to read easier, such as printing materials with big or wide size. Yes. Sometimes like pamphlets, some materials like pamphlets, yeah, they need to be in big size so that it can be easily readable for them, because they have low vision, so they need bigger letters. Yeah. So for cases, provide braille and stylus for the blind to write. So with instances where learners or children are totally blind, you could improvise the braille and stylus. Braille is a book for the blind, and the stylus is the pen for the blind. So you improvise them with this, and so they can also be able to engage and write. I could give you an example. When I was at the university, we had one learner who was blind at the School of Education, Makerere University. So he had his braille and stylus typewriter. And so whenever a lecturer would come and present for us, for him, he would be using the braille and stylus typewriter to type his work. So in that way, the learner who is blind is also able to note down something which is being presented by the teacher, by the lecturer, by the instructor. The low vision should use magnifying glasses for reading. Yes, magnifying glasses, sometimes specs which have magnifying glasses, yes, so that to enable them pick to read and understand what is being written. If in case the letters are not big enough, then you could need something like spectacles or magnifying glasses for reading. Also, prepare enlarged photos so that they can see clearly. Not only letters, but you could also prepare enlarged photos so that they can see clearly. Teaching children with cognitive impairment. Earlier on, I told you that cognitive impairment encompasses the brain, intellectual, the mind. So as a teacher, you are also going to engage with children who have cognitive impairment, who have cognitive disability. And how would you engage such learners or children in your classroom? Here are some of the examples I would wish to share with you. First and foremost, show the students what you want them to do instead of giving them instruction orally. Yeah, such students, you don't just need to instruct them that do this, but by telling them do this, also you have to do it. Then from there, they will learn from you. If, for example, you tell them, cut, for example, dissect the mango or dissect the guava, then you have to show them how they dissect the mango or how they dissect or cut the guava. And from there, they will be able to learn. But if you just tell them, cut the mango, cut the guava, without showing them, then there, somewhere, somehow, they may not get you clearly. The other is use very simple words when instructing and check if students understand you or not. Yeah, so as you are presenting your work or as you are teaching the learners, you need to use very simple words in instructing. Don't use complexing words, which bombastic words, which will make them to overthink. Ask, but teacher, why is it hydrocephalus? What? Give it in a simple way. Try to explain it to such learners in a simple way. Don't just bring big terms and from there they will easily get off. But bring simple words which they can easily relate with and understand what you are presenting to them. Activities should be designed step by step or break down in accordance with the learning objective. So as you are presenting, you need to design the activities in a way that they go step by step or they are broken down in accordance with the learning objective. You don't just bring something broad. You need to break it down step by step. Just I think the way as I'm bringing it step by step. I just don't bring something concrete at once, but I bring it step by step. So in accordance with the learning objective. So with that, such learners will be able to understand what you are presenting to them easily. Let the kids start with what they can do before moving to the next step. Let's redo the easy task once more time to make sure they don't have problems. For example, drawing circle shapes. Kids able to color the circle shape before moving to the next step. To make the circle shape by connecting the points, then copying the circle shape from elsewhere, and so on. Yeah, here you need to, these ones who have intellectual impairments needs to be taken slowly, step by step, and then again, you can even redo so that you can redo as much as possible. Because there are some learners, for example, those experiencing autism, it will take them time to learn even just one concept or just to learn just one thing. So you keep redoing it for them, so that from there, they can be able to understand. Then congratulate and encourage them for what they have successfully done. Such learners with cognitive impairment or with intellectual disability, always whenever they give you an answer in the class as a teacher, you need to tell them, you need to tell their colleagues to clap for them. Clap for him. He has been able to answer the question. Clap for him. Yes, good boy. Even if maybe sometimes he has failed to answer it correctly, maybe you can tell him, nice attempt. Keep trying. See, but don't discourage him that you are wrong. Wrong answer, no. Good attempt, keep trying. Then in case he answers the good answer, congratulate him, or even sometimes you can buy for him a gift, or you can even give him 500 SSP for his break time. So with that, you will be able to encourage such learners who are experiencing cognitive impairment. We go on to teaching children with physical impairment. Children with physical impairment, as we were talking about the types of disabilities, I said these are the ones who have deformation in their limbs. And we have such learners also in our schools and in our classrooms. So how, for example, children with the problems with the leg or with the hands. So how can we help such learners with physical impairment? One, I said, provide ramps for the children using wheelchair to access the classroom. What do I mean by ramps? Remember, there is a time when I was talking about barriers, and I talked about physical barriers. So children with using wheelchairs who cannot move with their legs, but they use wheelchairs or tricycles, cannot climb steps, cannot climb ladders to access the classroom. So if the classroom is raised high, then we need to provide ramps. Ramps is something flat. Okay, something raised, a bit raised. Okay, it's a kind of a raised, I don't know, but I think where you can be able to, you can be pushed easily up, and also you can easily come down. I think you are getting the point. My English may not be all that clear, but I think you are getting what I'm explaining to you by this. So instead of using steps, they will use the ramps to access the classroom. Number two, give them seats in front so that they can observe and be attended to by the teacher easily. Yeah, so such learners always need to occupy the front seats so that you as a teacher, you can be able to access them easily. If at all you had put such a learner using wheelchair, using tricycle at the back, how will you be able, if you want him to get near to you, how will you expect him to struggle all the way to come to the front? But if they are seated at the front, then in case you want to engage them, you can easily come to them. Then also there is this, train them to use legs to write if the hands cannot function. There are some, their hands, their upper limbs or their hands, they are paralyzed. So they can use if their legs is functioning, then they can use their legs to write or draw. There are very many disabled people or children I have encountered, I have met on the streets of Kampala, of Juba, of Nairobi. You find a child, the hands, they are not functioning, but he can use his leg to draw the photo of President Salva Kiir Mayardit. He can use his leg to draw the photo of President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. He can use his leg to draw the photo of President William Ruto. Are you seeing? These children have the abilities. They just need to be trained where they have the ability. So they have the talent, but they always develop their talent how to use their leg to draw those pictures, those beautiful pictures that you see on the streets. You see somebody has paralyzed hands, but he has used his legs and drawn a very beautiful photo of somebody. Provide them with the pen holders if one cannot use the pen very well. Yes, there are some learners, they may be having some little ability function in their hands, but it cannot enable them to write very well. So in such instances, on the pen, you need to attach a holder. This holder is what they will use now to write. They will fix the pen on the holder, and the disabled person, the person having physical impairment, will catch the holder to write. Yes, so I have presented for you some of the ways how you can teach those children who are having such impairments. So in order for this presentation not to be monotonous, let me not overgovern you in this presentation, I would like to give this 10 minutes from 2:50 to 3 for questions and for some additions, some clarification. Yes, I may not be knowing much, but there are some of you there. You can also share with us what you know about inclusive education and children, especially for children living with disabilities in the community. Thank you very much. Maybe I could encourage more of the questioning to be in the chat so that I can write them down. Maybe you can write it down in the chat. I write it down, then I will be able to answer it to you later. Then for the additions, you can easily add on. Yes, thank you. Over to you. Hello? Hello?
Great. Thank you so much, Solomon. Um, if you have questions, ladies and gentlemen, you can raise your hand or you can drop your question in the chat box if you are in a place that is very noisy. And I'm happy we have somebody who is a sign language interpreter, Checker Joyce. Checker, I don't know if your network is okay, if you can make a few comments. And also, I see a few questions in the chat box. Someone is asking that how how best can we include persons with people with disabilities, like here in South Sudan? That is one question in the chat box. And another question is why why is so hard to support disability or throughout community guidelines and government? So these two questions are from Lobur Elikana. And those are the only two questions I can see in the chat box. And somebody is saying, thank you so much. I'm very much happy to be part of this training. Cheka, can you unmute and speak if you are comfortable with that? And yeah, for the rest of us, if you have any comments, feel free to raise your hand and also feel free to drop your questions and comments in the chat box. Yes, Joyce, over to you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Cheka Joyce, a sign language interpreter in South Sudan, but currently I'm in Maban, in one of the refugee camps. So I really got this platform by chance, but I don't want to waste time. So I got it so interesting. I said, no, let me not pass this one. So about inclusive education, mine is just a comment, it's not a question. Okay, it is really a very good thing that South Sudan is trying to come up with. It is good in the context of South Sudan because we don't want to leave anyone behind. We want all people to be in the same track, like those ones who are not having disabilities and those ones with disabilities. Like when you check with other countries, our neighboring countries, at least people living with disabilities are in progressing well and their lives are really changing. So for South Sudan, inclusive education, like particularly for people or children with disabilities, more especially like in South Sudan, it has been something very hard and it is really challenging. Like inclusive education is favorable in South Sudan for me, the way I can comment, for the physical, intellectual, and the visual impairment for the context of South Sudan, because it is easy to do that, to include them in the classes. For them, it is very easy. But when you come to the hearing impaired, they really lack a lot. Even in Juba, they are there. Like in Buluk Primary School and some of the secondary schools, they always, those ones who finish like primary, they always go to the secondary school. But they have a lot of challenges, too many challenges, that even if inclusive education it was brought in South Sudan, but it was not really in a very good way, because if that one it was there before, it could be really very good. Because the hearing impairment, when you see, even if they are included in the classes, if the teachers themselves don't have that skills of maybe like the way our brother presented here, of how you can use pictures, maybe you can use their friends to explain to them. If they don't have that, it is really very hard. They cannot get anything. That's why you see most of them end up dropping out from school. Like in South Sudan, almost they are almost all of them. There's no one who has gone in higher classes. There are few, very few, and those few maybe they studied either in Khartoum or outside South Sudan. That's where you get them good. But for me, what I can add to maybe inclusive education, what is at least missing there, like for the hearing impairment, maybe first, if they, because that one is already inclusive education, they will say, no, we cannot make a separate school for this category of people, they have to be all included. Yes, it is not a problem, they can be included. But if only for the hearing impairment, if they can bring up like a center, maybe a center for sign language, maybe it can be from nursery maybe to P8, that will be enough. that one is going to be very good for them to develop their language, because this is the only language they have in this world. No any other language they are going to use. That is the only one. Using sign language, that is the only way they can express themselves, the only way they can talk to each other, the only way they can do with everything. So if they can make that one be there, like in South Sudan, if they can make like one, even if they can build a school just from nursery up to P8, then from secondary to, from senior 1 up to senior 4, that one is normal when you include them in class, because most of the things they now understand. Even if the teacher is there explaining something, they will understand. Very simple. It will not be something very hard. But now if you go to the school, they are really getting challenged. They are just gambling. That's why they don't even perform well. There are very few, 1 to 2 or 3 who can perform well, because they started, the foundation was okay. But here, I don't think it will work. Inclusive education will not work for the hearing impaired, but will work for others. Thank you. That is the brief I wanted to say.
Great, thank you so much, Cheka. Quite insightful. So that means that 2 things need to be done. One, considerable investment by a couple of educational stakeholders, and also exploring possibilities of probably establishing separate schools for like persons with hearing impairments. And I remember, I know, I'm told there's a school for blind people in Buluk. I have not personally gone there, but I'm told there's one. But then for people with hearing impairment, I've not yet come across that. But these are really good recommendations. Thank you so much, Cheka, for sharing your insights. I see there's a hand from Stephen Bida. Stephen Bida, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Stephen Bida. I'm from Yei, Otogopayam. So I would be very grateful to also raise my concern concerning the disability issues that are arising in some of the schools, more especially in the village areas, like Imongu, like Bursak. These are schools that are in the villages. We have find that even the government itself, the support is not up to date, like the constructions of the classroom. It is not actually friendly to the people, to the person of disability. Like those who are using wheelchairs, they are really suffering to enter into the classroom without the support of the teacher. So I don't know what could be, what best project can be developed to make sure that these people with disability are more supported. And in the regards to those who have a hearing disability, really in the area where I live in, we did not see experts like those people who know how to train them, how to even teach them in sign languages. What best can we do to make sure that those children are included in school? That is what I wanted to forward, and if there is a solution for that, we need really to get, because this area is affected. That first is affected. Most of the people have gone to Uganda. Some of them are in Congo, but we also have some people who are within the location, and they are probably to do best. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Stephen. So I think his question is, what projects would be best designed, especially in rural settings? He gave an example of where he's coming from. First of all, one, there are no experts like Cheka who can help around with sign language or sign language interpretation. And also he mentioned things to do with the way the classrooms are constructed, which makes it very hard for the mobility of persons with disability, citing an example of learners, especially those who are on wheelchairs. Maybe, let's say, where classrooms have staircases, so it's pretty hard for learners to move. So Solomon, his question is, what sort of projects can best be designed to bring solutions to this problem? Yes, Banya Tom, over to you, please.
Thank you so much, Bida. I apologize for really coming late into the session. You know, this inclusive education means a lot. It's not only in regard to the classroom situation and maybe the learning situation, but generally it involves everything that is included in the learning of the child who is having that impairment. When we look at these children with the disabilities, one, we consider the person who is teaching, that is the teacher himself or herself. Then two, we look at the classroom, the structure, the structure of the learning facility. And then three, we look at the classroom setup of that particular child. And then four, we also look at the teaching aids in regard to in the impairment, whether it's a visual kind of thing or it is an audio kind of thing. And then five is we look at even the sanitary facilities in the school. They also contribute a lot to the learning, because once a child with the disability comes to the school and he or she realizes that the sanitary facilities in the school, especially the latrines or the urinal shelters, are not very favorable to their conditions, that one already has disappointed them from the learning process. So these are the things that we really need to consider when we talking about these children with disabilities when it comes to their learning. And then three, the other point is, as Cheka had
Hello.
Looks like we have lost Tom. Let me give it to Lobur, and then when Tom comes back, he can pick it from where he dropped. Lobur, over to you, please. Lobur Elikana, I see your hand is up. Over to you. Okay, looks like Lobur is also having some glitches from his end. Solomon, would you like to answer the questions raised? I see I see Cheka has attempted to answer the question for Stephen Bida. So Stephen Bida, Cheka is saying that for you to help persons with hearing impairment, what you can do is you can get a deaf role model within YEI, and then sort of you teach them science. And if you are in YEI, that please there's one center in YEI that you can connect that particular there's a center that she can direct you to. So probably you can pick it up with Cheka, and then she can help you from there. Thank you so much, Cheka, for answering that question. And Solomon, another question that came in, someone I see, Angui Manyok is asking, is sign language included in the South Sudanese curriculum, the new curriculum? Does it have sign language? This is a question from Angwe Mayuat from Warap. Over to you, Solomon, before you can proceed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for those beautiful questions that have been given to me by the participants. First and foremost, I would like to look at the first two questions given to us by Lobur Elikana. It says, how best can we include persons with disabilities in South Sudan? Yes, this is what generally I've been discussing in this presentation. Yeah, but this one seems to be a bit broad, because including in terms of maybe education, health, leadership, and all the rest. Yes. As Change Agents Organization, we have our aim is to empower and include children and persons with disability in our community based on the community-based rehabilitation matrix, whereby they are able to access each and every service in the community, be it non-food items provided by organizations, be it agricultural services, any service that you might know about that one in South Sudan is attaining through the different initiatives. These persons with disabilities are also included. So this is how we could encourage more of the inclusion of persons in disabilities in South Sudan, so that they benefit in each and every sector, each and every activity, each and everything that is benefiting the community. Let them also have a share of it. Then number 2 was, why is it difficult to support persons with disabilities in communities by the government and NGOs? Yes, this issue of persons with disability has not been so much considered at the beginning, but now with time it has come on catching up in different areas, and the few organizations or the few community-based initiatives that are around are trying their best to engage, but they are always facing difficulties in terms of funding. They are always finding difficulties in terms of attitudinal, like people don't understand, like also persons with disabilities can also be supported and they can also live any life, because we have that mentality outcast. These ones, they have been cast. These ones just, they are bad omen of their grandparents, of their great-grandparents, but I've given you the causes of these disabilities. So most of them have that mentality. They were cast by the gods. It is the other grandparent who stole this from the other one and they cast him. That's why his children are like that. No. Some of the disabilities, they are caused by some things, like how I had mentioned them earlier on. So in this way, they tend to find difficulties engaging the government itself, since it already has that mentality, and NGOs, they don't have such programs also, like to write projects that support people living with disabilities. So when there are no initiatives like that, then it becomes a challenge for them to serve the community. Then thank you very much, Joyce. You talked about there is need for a center of sign language. Yes, this one from nursery to about P8. Then from there, we can be able to include them into the mainstream education, which is just quite a good idea. But which government parastatal, which NGO will be willing to serve, to attend to such, because not many people are concerned so much about this issue of persons with disability. People are more only, in South Sudan, you find that projects are more on children, children, adolescent girls, and the children who have come out of armed conflict, but they have not come in to look at issues of children living with disability or persons living with disabilities. Then Bida also brought up the question, Stephen Bida brought up the question that what best project can be put in place to ensure that persons with disabilities are supported. Yes, just as we just need to develop community-based initiatives in our communities, develop project, write project proposals, and look for funding in terms of that concept of community-based rehabilitation and inclusive education. That's the way how I see we can be able to support persons living with disabilities. So by developing such programs, like for example, the one which we are having in Change Agents organization, it has been able to benefit a number of children and people with disabilities in our community. Yes, like currently I could tell you, based on the statistics, we are supporting around 700 learners, both in primary school and in secondary school within Yambio County. So the program is just within Yambio County, but at least we have been able to support at least 700 children. And also the elderly have also been able to benefit, though they are not benefiting in education, but they have been able to benefit in other services that are being provided within the state or particularly in the county. So we also have to liaise and partner with other organizations because as community-based initiative or community-based organization, we don't have that much capacity to support, but we can lobby with the international organization, international partners. Give an example for the case of inclusive education, we have UNICEF. So sometimes we interact with UNICEF, we see how children can be supported by educational materials. Children, especially those living with disabilities, they are provided UNICEF books, provided UNICEF bags. Yes, and with that, we have been able to support the children living with disability. If it is form of food, food and agriculture, World Food Program is there. If it is in terms of social welfare, yes, Ministry of Social Welfare is there, and all those organizations which are related to that are there to support in this rural setting. So that is how in Yambio it is done, and you could also pick a leaf and also share it there in Yei, in the rural setting of Yei. So what best can we do for hearing impairments? That question had already been answered by Joyce, that there is a need for a center. Then how can the classroom be designed to enhance? Yes, these classrooms, they need to be designed in a way that they have each and every facility for each and every person with the different abilities. Be it learners with the hearing impairment, they would have their some things which are there, facilities which are there to support them. If it is sight, then their facilities would be there. So that's how generally I would talk about this. Then there is one, I never got the name, but he said that inclusive education does not only encompass only on teaching in the classroom. Yes, if I was to design this program to talk about inclusive education, it will take us almost 1 day or 2 days when I'm talking about inclusive education, and I'm also talking about inclusive games and sports. But I just decided to summarize the element as teachers present in the classroom to the different children with disabilities. Yes. So we have to pay attention to their sanitary environment, like the toilets. Those ones who cannot be able to squat, they have to raise. They have to have something raised where they can sit on and they do what they can do. Or there is also the toilet chair. Some can also use the toilet chair. So these are some of the things. Then when we come in terms of games, like how we are saying they play, there are a lot of inclusive games and sports also. Some who cannot be able to play, you have always heard of Paralympics, where people with amputations, people with wheelchairs, they also participate in their own athletics. So these are also what we start developing children with disability who have physical impairment in, engaging them with Paralympics, athletics of the wheelchair, those ones with amputations, they run with their clutches. So that's how we engage them. So inclusive education is quite broad, but for me, I decided just specifically to specialize on presenting or teaching in the classroom to the learners. Then Angui Mangok, forgive me for pronouncing your name, but yeah. So is sign language included in the new curriculum? Yes, so when you look at the new curriculum of South Sudan, yes, because I am inclusive education officer as well as a teacher at Bishop Abangite College. So I have access to the curriculum. So when you look at the new curriculum, the element of sign language has not, okay, they are giving some clue, they give out something, but they have not yet brought it out broad so that to engage more educators in accessing and being able to present lessons using sign language. So there is need to train teachers in sign language, to get training experts. Like, for example, there is a time when we invited one of the HI, Humanity and Inclusion Specialists. For him, he had specialized, he had got training in inclusive education. He went up to China, got the knowledge. He also came and tried to summarize for us basics, at least of how to say A in sign language, say boy in sign language, man in sign language. So if this new curriculum can encourage or promote such programs, then that's how I will say that the new curriculum has really included, the curriculum is really including the aspect of sign language in South Sudan. Thank you very much. I think these were some of the questions. Is there any other question? And if maybe there's something which I'm not given clearly, but
yes, there are a few questions that came up. I see, based on your responses. Cheka was asking. First of all, she made a comment. She said you're right. Even where she is now, that is what is happening. So she thinks there should be more of disability awareness raising to communities around the country. And her question is, how is the hearing impaired benefiting with education through your organization in Yambio? That is her question. And then also Lobur Elkana, I think he made a comment here. He says displacement, conflict, economic instability, and social stigma around girls and people with disabilities, like here in South Sudan, attending school combine to create multifaceted barriers to education. If this could be followed up here in our community guidelines, we need more teachers to teach children educational throughout. My clues, Lobur Elkana. And then Banyatom says he wants to talk more about the policy of empowering girls in schools by many NGOs while neglecting impaired children. He was cut short by network problem. He was at the point of asking you about enrollment of children in schools. What I'm trying to say is school should value and consider what they have before registering the learners, but not only getting that money from the parents. Banya, I don't know if your network is okay now and if you think you can still speak. Yes, Banya, you can unmute and speak.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Bida. I really faced challenges when because of network problem, and I appreciate the program. You know, this inclusive education means a lot, as the facilitator has put it, as he has limited his session only to the classroom environment, which means we are just limiting ourselves to the learning process just within the classroom situation, meaning that we will only look at exactly the classroom setup and the building of the class. So what he has said is right, and the major challenge that we have in South Sudan generally is we have volunteer teachers. Many of our teachers have not gone to teacher training to get those tips on how to handle inspired children, and how really to help them when it comes to the learning situation. But I think having sessions like this can empower them a lot. And if I can see the turn up for the participation in this session is very low, and I think you people need to do a lot in order to engage many of these educators when it comes to handling children with the inclusive needs. In the classroom situation, I concur with him. We can handle children with the hearing impairment, but when it comes to children with the visual impairment, that is our challenge, where we need to involve the use of braille and the sign language. But that's why I was saying we need to encourage these educators and the school owners not only to focus on the school fees that they get from the parents, but they should have in their admission whether these children have these special needs, so that if that child does not have the help in their school, there is no need really to register that child in such a school, because however much your school is performing, but if the child does not get the catering from your school, there's no need to register that child, which means you should have given a directive to this parent that instead of registering this child here, I prefer you taking this child to a school like this, so that this child can be handled better. But what is that we really don't want to accept the truth at hand. That is the biggest problem we have. If we can accept the truth at hand, I think helping these children will become our sole responsibility, will become a community responsibility, and at the end, they will be catered when it comes to the learning process. Thank you so much. That's my input.
Okay, good. Thank you so much for your comments. Over to you.
Yes, over to me. Hello?
Kindly proceed.
Okay, Joyce gave me a question. How is the hearing impaired benefiting in the program in Yambio? Yes, this program of inclusive education change agency has tremendously provided support to different impaired, yes. But to hearing impairment in specific, there is a time there are some community-based facilitators got some trainings, including some teachers in some of the secondary schools and primary schools in Yambio. They got some trainings on basic sign language. So through the partnership with Humanity and Inclusion, we are able to train these teachers on the basic sign language, at least how to eat, I want to eat, this is a man, this is a woman. At least they got those basics. And so that's how far the teachers have been impacted, and therefore, when they encounter children with hearing impairment in their schools, they are able to support them in such ways. I remember sometime also during the COVID-19 lockdown, we organized community-based education programs where we because the schools were locked, we decided to engage a group of 10 children, 5 children in the different payams. The different areas, the different neighborhoods of Yambio, maybe Akroboji, Gangremelia, Aikuze. So we opened up centers for those children, and we will send some facilitators to guide them as they passed through the COVID-19 lockdown. And through that, we also engaged them in those who had hearing impairment. We will always use sign language. Even we could also include the others, try to show them also the sign language together with this one who is having, maybe find that in that area there are 2 children with hearing impairment, and others maybe have sight, but we also try to show them sign language as they all, and they were able to learn the basic sign language. Together with also the training we provided to the teachers, so they are implementing it in their primary school. They are at least able to use basic sign language to say at least some simple words, but not the conk one, like how Joyce had studied, but just the basic one for basic learning. So there was a comment about there are more policies of young girls being supported in schools, and children with disabilities are always being neglected. Yeah, to tell the truth, I've been observing most of the programs, especially within the county of Yambio. You find that most programs that are coming up, most initiatives that are coming up in terms of education are there only to support the girl child. Like, for example, the capitation grant, is it? That one for girls, whereby they give girls money. And the one where in World Vision where they are giving girls bicycles. But you don't find a program that is there to support children with disability, just let alone maybe the one which Change Agency, with the small support it is getting, is trying to do. But you find that most of the other organizations, they are concentrating more on the girl child, and yet they neglect children who are living in disability. And the most disappointing point in this, as I've observed in Yambio and in the rest of South Sudan, is even as they are trying their best to empower the girls, to engage the girls so that they can attain quality education by giving them money, by giving them scholastic materials, sanitary pads, you still find that they continue to drop out of school. So I'm not even seeing the much impact of this program. Yes, they are providing, but how has it been able to impact the girls at the end? But you find, like with the disability program, we are seeing the impact and how it has impacted the community. We have examples of children who have been able to complete Senior 4. Let me give you an example. Idiela Jennifer, she completed her Senior 4 last year at King's College, Yambio, and is yet to receive a result. She was having paraplegia, so she had a problem with her legs. Another good example of hearing impairment was Esther Alicio. Esther Alicio had hearing impairment, but she completed her P8 in 2022 and went on to engage at the Chindoka Vocational Training Center, where she got basic skills in tailoring and catering. Then here I come to Panya, but Panya, most of what I'm seeing was giving comments, but I could also try to elaborate. Many of the teachers, yes, in South Sudan, you can see many of the teachers here, we are not trained, because even I'm a teacher, but to tell you the reality, many of us, we are not trained. Some of us, we have not been able to go to teacher training colleges. We have not been able to go to the university, but you just finish Senior 4, You go, you catch chalk, you go and teach SST. You pick chalk, go and teach science. Pick chalk, even you are finished senior 4, you can teach your fellow senior 4 the next year in biology. So it is in these teacher training colleges, it is in these universities where they train teachers to develop their professional skills. Because I remember one of the course units I was studying at the university was special needs. And with the special needs, I've been able to develop the knowledge so that I'm serving now in this capacity. So there is a need for more training, for more teachers. And the attitude also towards the children going for teacher training is also a problem. You find that when you tell somebody that teaching, you go for teaching, go to Solidarity Teacher Training College, go to Meridi Teacher Training College, why Yei Teacher Training College, go and study education at Juba University or at Catholic University of South. So this one, teachers, I will remain in the classroom writing with chalk, and even I will be that of chalk. So there are not too many, but at the end, when they are finished senior 4, there is nowhere they can go, no scholarship, and then they end up going again to teach. So in that way, you don't really understand what is really going on. So there is a need to empower more young people in the education sector, encourage more, those ones who are finishing their senior, so that they go to the teaching profession and they are trained in the teaching. And from there, they can be able to support also, while they are teaching, they can be also to engage children who are living with disabilities in their inclusive school program. Then he talked about the challenges on visual impairments. Visual impairments, we have in Yambio, we have 5 clients who are having visual impairment. 2 have been enrolled in school. One called Jasper completed his senior 4 in 2020. He was visually impaired, but he was able to complete his senior 4 at the Yambio Secondary School in 2020. And due to the support of Change Agency, he was able to make it, and he reached there. So with that, thank you very much. If there is no any other questions, then maybe I can continue with the last part of my presentation. Thank you. Yes, hello, are you getting me? In case of more questions, maybe I will answer them.
Please proceed. The questions will be asked later. Proceed.
Okay. Thank you. So I have been able to present for you some of the ways how we can engage the learners in the classroom. Yes, this one is just theory. I've just been, but I would like to give you an example of one. Yes, I picked one example of one learner who has been able to benefit in this inclusive educational program in Yambio. So here I say the case study of one of the child in Yambio. So we have one child here, is Jimmy, is 17 years old in Yambio. He was born with paraplegia. Paraplegia is a kind of impairment that paralyzes the lower limbs and so cannot function, hence cannot be able to move physically. So Jamie has paraplegia. Paraplegia means his 2 legs, they don't function. So he has to use a tricycle to move, or he need to use a wheelchair to move. He was not attending school since his parents considered him a cursed child and so cannot go to school. That was the attitudinal barrier which his parents were making onto him. But at the age of 9 years, with the help of Change Agency organization, a community-based organization in Yambio, supporting children with disabilities to get access to inclusive education, he was able to enroll at St. Mary Primary School, Yambio. So those, if at all there are some of you who are here and you are familiar with St. Mary's Yambio, yes, one of the school under the Catholic Diocese of Tambra Yambio. So we enrolled Jimmy in St. Mary's Primary School, where he is currently a pupil in primary 8. So that means by December, he will be doing his exam and maybe later on will enroll for the senior one. He is happy at the school because he always interacts with his colleagues without segregation. Red Cross provided him with mobility devices, which is a tricycle that supports him move to school and home. He is performing very well and is hoping to be a technical engineer in the future. So here, I wanted to show you a clear picture that these are some of the things, like Jimmy is really benefiting from the program. Even the program whereby Red Cross was distributing the devices, he also benefited from it. Due to our connection with the Red Cross, he was able to get the tricycle. And the way how we have been engaging his colleagues in the school, because we also have inclusive school clubs, whereby in those school clubs, they also engage learners with disabilities, like in a poem, like in MDD, like in sports activities. So in that way, we have harmonized the learners to be able to accept their colleagues who is having a disabled problem. And so they are always never segregating him. So you cannot find in any instance whereby one day you can find one of the students discriminating Jimmy, because they are all welcoming to him. They love him. Even when he's short of funds to buy something, even some students can also help him. Yeah. And also, based on our usual interaction with him, there is a time together with Lucy, one of the child protection officers with UNICEF, we interviewed him and he told us that in the future he would wish to be a technical engineer. So I think you see somebody like that. Now we are developing him to be with the vision of being somebody great in the future, being a technical engineer. You see, we have had examples of like there is one who is in humanity and inclusion. I don't remember his name very well, but he is blind, but he was presenting. There's a time he was presenting for us, the people of Change Agency and other community-based organizations within Yambio, about handling cases to do with people having disabilities. And you could see he's blind, but he has the capacity and is working with even big organizations. So from there also, we are developing people like Jimmy so that they can also do something great, like become engineers, become doctors, become teachers, even become pilots. Like, for example, even have some Steve Wonder, who will become an international musician. We also have is one of the presidents. Is it Woodrow Wilson? Is it Abraham Lincoln? But at least one of the presidents of the United States of America was even having an impairment. He was physically impaired, but he was able to lead the United States of America. So here we come to the inclusive education assistive devices. Yes, I have not been able to write the names of these devices. Don't say that maybe I was getting challenged by technology, but why I did it like this is I want, because I had already talked about earlier on in the different, how to teach the different children with disabilities. Maybe what I could do, like, maybe like some of you could identify some of these devices which I've put out for you here. Then maybe I could also add on from there. Thank you. Maybe I could give you a maximum of 5 minutes to do this. 5 to 10 minutes, yes. Anyone ready? Joyce, I think Joyce could be quite familiar with these devices. Hello.
Yes, hello.
Yes, I'm getting you, yes.
Yes, the ones I'm familiar to is the ones written in braille. This one in the middle, up.
Yes, this one.
Yes, this one.
This one is called what? This one is called what?
This is the one you're pointing.
Yes, you said.
I don't know.
This one.
This one is E.
These are the braille letters, I think.
Yes, these are the braille letters.
Then
Yeah, and then this one, the stylus.
Yes, the stylus.
Yeah.
This one is light blue, then the braille.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. So this is the stylus.
Then yeah.
And this is the braille. And this is the braille letters. Yeah.
Yes. So the other one is the hearing aid. The other one at the corner.
This one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, this one up here is the hearing aid.
Yes, that one is the hearing aid. And then that one, I can see the ramps with the rails for supporting it. That one
this
is
one
for the
has two corners at this side.
Yeah. Okay. Then this one up at the corner, it's like a something like a lens for magnifying.
Magnifying lens
which
glass.
is small. Yeah. Then this one down here is, I don't know, maybe it is to support someone who's having paralysis. I don't know, like that, but I don't know its name.
It's called a pen holder.
Okay.
A pen holder, because his hand is paralyzed, so he cannot be able to handle a pen ordinarily like any of us. So he needs a pen holder to support him, right?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think you have been able to see all these devices clearly. And yeah, is it quite clear? Is there any questions about them? Anyone who would like to elaborate more about it? There are a number of devices, thousands of devices, but at least I try to bring these 6, this 5, and this one is the braille letter, so that at least you have a clue on what are some of the facilities that is used to assist. Because assistive devices, these are like the equipment or facilities used with these children who are having the disability. Any questions? Okay. So before the questions, let me see. Yes, Bida, are you there?
Yeah, so it looks like there are no additional questions. We're left with 14 minutes to wrap up the session.
I think I could share also. Yes.
There was a video you said you wanted to
share a video. Share a video.
Yes. Yeah.
Is it? Are you seeing something there?
Yeah, we are seeing.
I never used to accept myself.
Okay, before we start the video, this one is the Wanjiru. She's from Kenya. She was born with a kind of impairment or disability, which I had talked earlier on as hydrocephalus. And so she's trying to tell us experience as she's interacting with her colleagues and how she has managed to cope up, the coping mechanism, how she has managed to stay with them with attitudinal barriers and all. So thank you. I think we can watch. Thank you.
I used to accept myself. So my mom used to tell me every day that I love you, I love you, I love you. My name is Angel Wanjiru. I am 14 years old. I was born with my head like this the way it is, yes. And plus a condition known as congenital hydrocephalus. The doctors told my mom that when ikawa nimeweza kuwa mlemavu, but all those things did not come true. It happened. Yeah, 2016 I released my first song. It's called Nataka Jua because I used to ask my mom a lot of questions. Mom, why am I different from other people? Why is it that when I pass, people laugh at me? So, hakuwa najibu wengine apart from kuimba tu. Yesterday, there was a person who just laughed at me because of how I look. But, you know, nilianza kulia tu.
So how did you overcome that?
Ignore.
You ignored?
Yeah.
You ignore and ignore.
Yeah.
And ignore. If people laugh, you ignore them.
Na ignore, kwani what else can you do to the kids who are disabled? Accept yourself just as you are created, and no matter what, if people laugh at you, don't rely on them so much because hata wao si wao ndio likumba, ni Mungu. So you accept yourself and never give up.
Okay, thank you. That was the video. That was the video.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for the session. I will stop recording.